This is Office Talk with Annette Welcome back to another episode of Office Talk. I'm Annette, and in this week's episode, we're shaking things up a little bit. It's actually kind of a new flavor of episode that I'm bringing to you, and it's with my friend and fellow podcast host, Kinsey Roberts. If you don't know her, she is the wonderfully witty and charming host over on the She Creates Business podcast. And over the last few years, we've developed a friendship and, we've chat every once in a while. And the last time we were chatting, we just had such a great conversation and we both realized this needs to be a podcast episode because I know so many of you guys can relate to some of the struggles and revelations and conversations that we're having together as business owners. So about once a month, you can expect to hear this episode, which we're calling Chit Chat with Annette and Kinsey. It's totally casual, totally just super chill. Two girlfriends chit-chatting about business and life and everything in between. I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I would love to hear what you think about it after you've had a chance to listen. So make sure to find me over on Instagram at Annette Stepanian and let me know, is this something you guys like? Are there any topics you want us to take up? Just give me a holler. With that said, let's go to this week's episode, Chit Chat with Annette and Kinsey.
You were saying how much you love me? I was. So I did just start recording. So good job. Yeah. Well, okay. So the other day, this is a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about, we got on the phone and we were talking actually about a totally separate issue. I had to talk to you about trademarking, of course. Sidebar, everyone. I got in trouble for trademark. I didn't get in trouble. I just got trouble.
You got a little hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, don't mess with me because I will bring the hammer down on you.
Props to her, man. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I was actually really excited about it because I was like, oh, this is really nice, but also really professional. And I'm going to do what she asks. So anyway, when we got on the phone to talk about trademarking, we ended up staying on the phone for an hour and talking about all kinds of stuff. We talked about upcoming workbook for you for something else. But then we also got into actually this conversation, we should be having just these casual but really raw conversations. And one of the things that I was telling you was that I loved how we were literally on the telephone. We were not even on Skype or on any online anything. We were on the telephone having a conversation for an hour about just entrepreneurship, what we have coming up, what our ideas are. And it just morphed into, I don't know. So I ended up telling you how much 2018, I want to look like just talking one-on-one to people and seeing people in person and getting those one-on-one relationships and no paid for masterminds or courses or anything that's just self-work, because I think we kind of have the information that we need. Yep. And I really just focus on the people. I don't know if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense because I was there on the other end of the conversation. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think I have so much to say about this. First of all, I love talking to you. And part of the reason why I wanted to start the podcast was because I was having such great conversations with folks. And I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so helpful to other people. I know people can relate. It's just, you get into podcasts we're recording and you get into your podcast mode, and I'm kind of doing the robot dance right now. And so I think it's important to have these conversations. I think on the issue of feeling kind of oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed with courses. I don't need, another paid mastermind, another whatever. I felt that way last year, towards the end of last year. I think there's an evolution, right? We talked about this where when you're first starting out, you're kind of just so overwhelmed. You do need that. There's a huge learning curve. So you do need those resources. But I think for some folks, when you've been at it for a while, I think it's important to quiet all of that noise down and really start listening to yourself and trusting that you know what you need to know to move forward. And this isn't to say that you never continue growing and education's not important. I think it's absolutely important, but there's a time when it becomes what I call a sophisticated form of procrastination, where deep down that you are just buying, right? Trademark.
Trademark that right away before I try.
So, it's, and that deep down, it's kind of like when you're dating
I don't know, I learned so much through the dating process. When you're dating, maybe you had this experience, right? You're dating the wrong guys, and you know you're dating the wrong guys. You keep coming back to your girlfriends and you say, why can't I meet anybody? Wah, wah, wah. But the reality is, you know you're dating the wrong guys. And so you have to kind of be honest with yourself. Like, am I just wasting time? Am I just trying to procrastinate on the things I need to do because I'm either scared or, you know, all of the above type of thing. So...
Well, and I think too, yes to that. And I wonder if my courses have been like, they've maybe not been like the wrong guys, but they've been like, not right now, guys. Like, so all that, wow, I was really trying to think of a powerful euphemism, but it totally just fell flat. So they were good and they were nice. And all of those courses are good and valuable and helpful and they're good information. I mean, I have one myself, right? But I think the problem with the courses that I have taken in the past are two things. Number one, I really do thrive on talking to other people and having those one-on-one interactions, because I do have a part of my personality that is more of an extrovert personality, and I want to talk to other people. I want to talk it out. I want to,
No.
Like, you know,
You're such a wallflower.
Yeah, I know. I want to use my hands. Like, I want to use the F word sometimes, like just to get my point across. Do you know what I mean? And when I'm taking courses, like, I can't do that. It's just like, wah, wah. But when I think of like the best courses that I've taken, they do one thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I feel like sometimes I've purchased courses that are like these overarching huge packages of information where a lot of it is just kind of like, what's the word? Kind of just information that's like on the periphery of what I really need. It's kind of like encouragement / an example. It's not really concrete. And I've paid, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for it. But then I think of another course that literally gave me like an amazing high converting Squarespace website template. And I paid like $300 for that, but it gave me exactly what I needed at the end, right? There was a beginning and an end. It didn't feel so like, oh, self-paced, like take this at your own time. Like, I actually had a tangible ROI at the end of that course. And I felt super satisfied. And when I was done with it, I was like, I would have paid $500 for this because that's exactly what I needed. And that's how I feel after seeing people in person or talking to people in person, is that this was so fulfilling. Like,
right? I call it the conference high. I come back and I'm like, oh, I can do anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. You're really good with these like sophisticated procrastination, the conference high. Like, such a lawyer.
I've been working on that sophisticated.
Out.
It's been years recognizing the sophisticated form of procrastination, man. No, but I hear you. I think it's, you know, I took one course too that now that I think about, one of the best courses I've taken was learning how to use Photoshop, like kind of basic stuff, but I use it almost every day, if not every few days. And I remember at the time it was such a huge expense. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm paying this much. But it just was like, boom, boom, boom. It got you in there, got me out. And I use it every single day. So I do see the ROI in that sense because it's something I use every day. But look, I just think it's a process. It's a process, right? We don't all start out that way, in recognizing that. And I think if we hadn't gone through all those courses, we wouldn't recognize, like, you wouldn't even be asking yourself probably like, what's the ROI on this course, right? I mean, were you asking yourself that on day one? I wasn't.
No, I was like, I'm going to take this course because this course is going to make me a business owner. You know what I mean? Like, you feel if you consume all of this information. Who said this? I was listening to another podcast and I thought it was so brilliant. I can't remember. This is definitely not my original thought, but what she said was basically that we spend so much time like setting up to scale, when actually we like setting up to scale our business or like grow this business that really doesn't even exist, you know, especially at the beginning, instead of just doing the activities that we need to do. So like, for instance, let me give you a solid example. Instead of actually contacting people to make sales, you are working on like your CRM, even though you don't have any clients to put in that CRM.
Oh, I am so guilty of this.
Me too. 100. I was like, oh, genius. I know. I'm trying to think who said it. I really want to give credit. I cannot remember what podcast I heard that on, but I was just like, I feel like she's literally tapping me on the chest right now. Like, I've done this so much.
Yeah, because I remember when I started a jewelry business in between leaving my law firm job and doing what I do now. And I remember I thought I was going to be like Kate Spade and like J. Crew. And I was like building this huge empire. But it's so true. I was building like kind of with the tomorrow in mind rather than working on what I needed to today. Mm-hmm. Henceforth, the sophisticated form of procrastination revelation that I had. But yeah, why do we do that? Why do we do that?
Why do we all do it? Why do we all do it? I feel like we're all kind of like raising our hands right now. And I would like to know. I really would. Like, why do we do that? I feel like I don't know. I don't want to say that. I feel like it's just kind of a cop-out to say like, oh, I'm scared, or which might be the thing. Like, it's not a cop-out. That might be part of it. Like, we're fearful or whatever. But I also just feel like we like the perception of what it means to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, but we don't want to do the actual thing. And here's what I mean by that. We hear all the time, right? Like, I see all the time in Facebook groups, or I hear all the time, like, I don't like sales. Like, sales is gross. Sales makes me feel icky. Like, how can I ask for a sale without feeling disgusting? Like, there is no way. Like, you just need to ask for this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just need to ask for the sale. Yeah. Like, without sales, you're not a business owner, right? We're not business owners. And I'm not saying, like, I am not pointing my finger at anyone but myself. But that has been like a point of contention with myself, and a point of frustration is like, why do we need to think of all these creative ways to, quote, ask for the sale? Pfft, why? Mm-hmm. We're business owners. If we're like kind of like icked out by selling or something like that, we need to actually look at what we're selling. Do we actually like it? Do we actually believe in it? Is it actually something that's going to be helpful? Because that actually might be the root of the issue. You don't actually think you have something good, so you don't want to ask for the sale. Because if I'm not selling something, but if I freaking love it, if it's a movie, if it's a lipstick, if it's, something else like shopping, I will tell anyone who will listen, and I have no problems with that.
You feel like you're taking something from somebody, like I think, that, oh, I'm bothering them, or, it's instead of flipping it and saying, well, I'm giving them something of value, right? I'm making it easier for them to start a podcast because I'm teaching a podcasting course. I'm, whatever it, who does that?
Who does that?
Kinsey. That was not a plug, but I am looking at her right now on my computer screen. So she came to mind. But anyway, instead of reframing it that way, where like, I'm actually helping you, and I believe so much in that it's going to help you and the results you're going to get from it, because it's going to make it easier, faster, whatever the result is. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're not even framing it in terms of a result. Like, what's the benefit here? Like, other than like, I know it works, or I know it's great. You have to kind of articulate that in a way that the person's going to understand. You have to speak their language, right? Like, you're saving them time, you're saving them money, you're saving them, whatever. So I think that, maybe it's about reframing it and just saying, okay, well, I'm actually helping, and the money is just kind of a secondary, because it's just a form of exchange, and it just happens to be in money. The currency is money. But I don't know. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And I kind of go back to what we both just said. Like, I loved that Squarespace template course. You loved your Photoshop course. That provided like an actual thing, like a tangible. It doesn't have to necessarily be tangible. Like, it doesn't have to be graphics at the end of a Photoshop course or a website at the end of a Squarespace course, but it has to be something that we like relate value to. But honestly, like, I wish I would have found that template course way sooner. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that person would have sold me sooner, not that she knows me, but like if she was putting it out more, and actually she's part of like Mariah Coz's whole like Cosm. And so like they do an excellent job at marketing, right? An amazing job. And it still took me a while to find that information. So it was amazing. So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, that makes sense. And also, I think we think that everyone notices what we do online.
Oh my gosh.
That's just not true. Like, it's not
so
true.
Not true.
We feel like people are like, I'm bothering people, like you just said, or like everyone's already seen this. No, they haven't. No one has ever seen that stuff. Like, look at how good Mariah Coz, and it was Megan Minns is her partner, and like they partner in business, and they do their whole thing. And oh my God, that Squarespace template, I can't get over how awesome it was.
Now I want the Squarespace template.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, it was so easy. It was just like super step by step. I don't use that template anymore, but at the time it's exactly what I needed. Right. And they are amazing marketing. Like, that's a machine. Like, Femtrepreneur is a machine, right? But it still took me a while to find it. And I am a internet researcher weirdo. Yeah. So anyway, like that, all that is to say is nobody knows what you're doing online. Like, we need to stop. I feel like part of this sales thing is that we think we can only say something once or twice, and then people will get sick of it. And that is the literal opposite of the truth.
Oh my gosh. I have people in business who you're close to, who you interact with, or you're in touch with, right? You kind of pay attention to their Instagram posts and whatever. So I feel like I'm always amazed at how many times people are like, these people who are supposedly like in the know are like, do you offer this service? And I'm like, what? Like, if these people who are so in the mix, so to speak, are wondering, or I sometimes wonder of other people, like, how can somebody who doesn't even know me, who has no point of reference, who maybe stumbles across me on, Instagram or in a Facebook group or something, like, how are they supposed to know? And it always just amazes me. So you're raising your hand.
Oh, those were Jesus hands, because I was I was 100% agreeing with you. Well, I'll throw myself under the bus. That just happened to me with you on that same phone call. Remember when I was talking to you about the opt-in shop and you were like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
And we're friends, you guys. We're friends.
Yeah, we're friends.
We talk on Instagram.
Yeah. And I knew she had an opt-in shop.
But you had no idea what it was.
I totally thought it was something different than what it was. Yes. I was like, I thought it was something where, like, you teach them how to create, like, an opt-in, right?
Yep.
But you actually give the opt-in.
Correct. Yeah, and you guys, we are friends.
Totally
like, we've done work together, like custom contract. I mean, we are in touch. And even Annette was like, I'm sorry, what's happening over here?
Yeah.
So, like, that's a great example. Like,
it took about 15 minutes for me to understand.
So, I mean, I just threw myself under the bus, but it's true. Like, I'm doing a really poor job. Like, I took a lot from that 15 minutes though from you. I was like, okay, this is really, thank you. Seriously. It was really valuable. I was like, okay, I feel devastated kind of, but also
sorry.
No, oh my God, in a great way. Because again, that one-on-one conversation, had I not had that talk with you, had I not had this relationship with you, we would have never had that discussion. I would have never known. And it has kind of lit a fire under my rear, so to speak, to be like, okay, how can I make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, have you noticed the people who are quote unquote big in this space, in this world, online marketing world? Have you noticed that they pretty much focus on one product?
Ugh, yes.
Right? So
and it's annoying, but it's awesome.
Hello.
They're so brilliant.
It's brilliant. I mean, and I don't know if you've ever read The Pumpkin Plan. We could put it in the show notes. I'm a big fan of it, but it's the idea of like niching down. And I think you can go further. People work on just really perfecting one product, one experience, one offering. And yeah, they might have a ladder where, you come in by way of an online course, and then maybe you do like a group coaching program, then a mastermind, and then maybe there's a ladder, but for the most part, you go onto their websites, or some of these don't even have like fancy websites. Like, they are selling one dang product. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think the more you simplify, the more, there's just so much information out there, and it's sometimes you want people to make the decisions for you. I don't know if you feel that way. I'm like, don't make me make a decision. Just tell me what I need. What do I need to do? Right. And you go to sometimes people's websites and there's just, you don't know where to go. There's so many options, and I'm guilty of it. I'm thinking about, my website is not super simple, but yeah, I don't, something, food for thought.
Mike Michalowicz is the author of that book, right?
Yes.
He wrote Profit First, I think, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another good book.
We'll put those in the show notes.
Yeah.
Who comes to mind, and I feel like I'm going to say this just because I feel like it perfectly illustrates what you're saying, although I can, like, for me, I find it just a little bit hard to relate to her because she is like on chapter, 106, and I'm on like my chapter 5, maybe. Marie Forleo. She literally sells B-School. That is it. She doesn't sell anything else. Not one thing. But what's really cool is I was just listening to her. I feel like in these last couple of years, she's actually become, well, she sells just B-School now, right? So she's a great example of what you're saying.
Copy cure thing that's like an evergreen thing.
Yeah,
that's always open.
But she's partnered with that copywriter.
Yeah, that other. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who we'll put in the show notes.
Right. We'll put that in the show notes. But she sells that one thing, and then the rest of the year, she's doing her free video content to just keep driving traffic to that one thing. But what's really cool is even Marie Forleo didn't start that way. So I think in the last couple of years, she's done a really good job of becoming, well, I think I've just been following her more closely in the last couple of years. So don't quote me. I I don't know everything about her, but
you're not an expert on Marie Forleo.
No. I just feel like listening to, like, for instance, I listen to Amy Porterfield's podcast, and they are friends. And so every year B School launches, Marie Forleo will come on and do an interview. And so, like, the last 3 years, I feel like she's done a really good job of really tying in her personal backstory. Like, instead of saying, like, I am this polished YouTuber, here's, like, what it used to look like back in 1999 when I was a life coach, which is cool because I didn't know that. And she did used to have a lot of products. Like, she used to do paid masterminds. That's how she met Amy Porterfield. She has written a book. Like, her mastermind used to be called Rich, Happy, and Hot.
Yeah.
So I feel like, to speak to what you were saying earlier, is it is kind of an evolution where I think it's okay to make these mistakes, or not even mistakes, but I think it's okay to use these, like, stepping stones. Yeah, because we also can't assume the outcome. Like, focusing on one product might be the right thing. Like, you have a lot of contract templates and you're amazing at that. That's one thing, but you have multiple types, right? And so I think that it's important to do these tests so that we can decide what works for us. It might be one thing, or it might be a couple of things, or it might be like, you could be the Jill of all trades, and that's actually what's good for you because people come to you for that information. I feel like it's even, sometimes I've tried to, like, assume the outcome. Like, okay, if I just do this one thing that someone else is doing who's bigger than me, then that's the right thing, which is wrong, right?
Yeah. And, like, kind of to tie it back to what we were talking about, I think for me, I've always been looking for, you know, a formula. Like, okay, if everybody does it this way, then I need to just follow those steps and, like, I'll get the same result as you're saying. And maybe that's why we keep taking these courses, and not to knock down courses. Courses are great, but, like, these things that are sophisticated form of procrastination activities, whatever that might mean for you, right?
Yeah.
Is because we see other people doing it. So we're like, okay, then let me try it. And that's great. You start from there. But I think what ends up happening is we get lazy in that we're just like, oh, let me just be a sheep. Let me just follow. Let me just follow the crowd instead of actually paying attention to, you know, what's working for you, both in terms of what's resonating with your audience, what works for you on, like, a personal level. Like, gosh, I'm so preaching to myself right now, but, like, you know, what is the stuff that
feels
you
good.
enjoy
I'm here
doing?
for it. I'm here for it.
I
You're
know,
preaching to me
but
too.
then seriously, I'm like, I need to take my own advice, but, you know, what feels good to you from a personal level? Because I feel like people feel that, you know, they know when there's, like, an X factor there, right? And I think it requires you to really know what you're good at and where you shine. Like, you know, some people will say, like, you need to be on such and such platform. You need to be on such and such platform, and da-da-da-da-da. That's how I've built my multi-six-figure business or whatever. We can talk about that. But it's...
Next time, baby.
Yeah, next time. That's like a cliffhanger. But I think it's what you need to also take into consideration of, like, what is that person's personality, like, speak best to, kind of. I guess personality doesn't speak, but you know what I mean? Like, where do they shine? And maybe they are really good on video, you know, and awesome. Not to say that you can't be good on video, but you know where you're really good. You know, maybe you're really good one-on-one. Like, I know I'm a one-on-one type of person. Like, I just love that connection that I have. Like, in this online world, I feel a little lost, right? Where I don't know who I'm speaking to. There's no, like, face or name except a tiny profile photo. And so I think it's important to, like, to take all of that stuff into consideration, right? You want to look at, where do I really shine? What lights me up? Where are people's eyes lighting up when I'm, you know, in that context, right? What's working, you know, what's resonating in terms of engagement, you know, what feels good to me? Like, what do I enjoy doing? Like, you know, is it webinars? Is it Facebook Lives? Is it in person? Is it none of this stuff? And, you know, remember, there's so many different ways to design a business. Like, this is just one dimension of it, the way that we're running our businesses online. Like, you know, there are people, like, brick and mortar killing it. You know, like, that's so true. Right? I mean, it's some people who don't have websites and they're killing it. Like, I worked with somebody recently, not in this context. I hired them. She doesn't have a website. She has no social media. She's killing it. It's because it's all word of mouth referral. And that's how I found her. And so I think sometimes you need to take a step back and get perspective on that stuff and realize there is no formula. There is no path. And when you find yourself trying to find the formula, just step back and be like, look, I can do whatever I want. It's a blank canvas. And let me paint, you know, it doesn't have to be color by numbers anymore. Drop the mic.
I could not agree more. I feel like when you were talking, I was like, she's talking to me.
I'm talking to myself, girl.
Yes. Yes. It's okay. I'm so glad we're doing this. When you said, when you first started talking, you said like not to knock courses, which we're not. I think we both have one. So
yeah, we both have courses.
We don't. So that's not that's not what we're saying. But what you also said, and this really resonated with me, is that you said sometimes I think we're lazy. And yes, and I think we are. And I think that's hard to admit to ourselves. Like we want to say like, we're researching. I love to say like, I'm researching or like, or I'm learning or like I'm educating myself, where the reality is I'm just lazy. And sometimes I don't finish courses. And not sometimes, a lot of times, especially.
So why not? The courses you're creating or courses you're taking?
Courses that I'm taking that I don't finish them. And I know exactly why not, because you also alluded to this earlier when you were chatting about this, where you said that sometimes we're lazy. And also, like you said, there's nothing wrong with taking courses. I think you might have said this earlier. There's nothing wrong with taking courses, and that's true. But I am lazy. And here's why I don't finish courses. It's because, well, when you said sophisticated procrastination, here's why I'm not finishing courses, because I am taking courses that are irrelevant to the stage of business that I am in.
Girl.
That's why. Yes. So like if I need a website, boom, that website course was exactly what I needed. When I started my podcast, researching podcasting and actually learning podcasting, that's exactly what I needed in that moment. But there have been courses that I've purchased, like an InDesign course. Like I don't need to know InDesign. Just hire a freaking graphic designer. It's cheaper, first of all, and you get a lot more out of it, which I've done finally, but I paid for that. Haven't touched it. I bought a copywriting course. Haven't touched it. Like I watched a couple of videos, and that's an amazing course. It's really, really, really well done. And if you are interested in, doing your own copywriting, then you should totally take that specific course, and I'd recommend it to those people. But I'm not going to do my own copywriting, because that's not the stage I'm at a stage where I'm like, I need better copywriting, but I could also hire someone to do it. So I don't need to sit around and waste my time taking my own course, right? So I'm purchasing courses because they make me feel better about myself, but they're completely irrelevant to the stage of business that I'm in. Therefore, I don't finish them.
Ergo. Well, yes. I remember when I was doing the jewelry thing, I wanted to learn CAD. Do you know what CAD is?
AutoCAD?
AutoCAD.
Yeah, I barely got
3D modeling.
Yeah, I barely got a B in AutoCAD in high school. I have like
PTSD taught it at your high school?
Yeah, which is weird because I went to a really small, crappy school, so I'm not even sure how I got taught that, but I did.
Oh, we just had typing, which was like one of the best courses I've ever taken. The most useful course, how to learn how to properly type. But yeah, I remember. I don't know what it is. Are you like? Do you love to learn? Have you always been like a learner growing up? Were you the girl who went to the library during the summertime and wrote book reports?
Yes. Okay.
Not talking about anybody here.
Yeah. Not talking about anyone here, Kinsey and Annette. Yes. I love to learn. I love to read. I've never been shy about my love of reading, my love of learning, even in like my school age where you're supposed to like try to be the cool kid, which I definitely was trying to do that. Don't get me wrong. But I've never been shy about being like a bookworm and a book nerd and a reader and a learner and someone who enjoys that. So yes, to answer your question.
So I'm the same way, because I think there's like a high that we get off of like learning. Like I think something goes off in our brains, like things are firing that we're so excited. It's like the challenge, right? Like I want to learn InDesign, and it's not necessarily always practical. And when you live in this world where you have limited time, obviously, because you have a family, you have all these different demands on your time, you have limited resources, energy, all of that stuff. You have to make those decisions, I sometimes wish I could just sit around and like learn for a living and just read. Like,
man, I'd be so good at that. You would too. We'd be really great at that.
Have you taken the Strengths Finders test?
Yes, but I forgot I don't know what I am, but I have read that book and I did take the test, but I didn't really like latch on to it. It's probably just one of those things where I was like, I'm going to do this.
Let's go through our Strengths Finders.
Ooh, okay.
Because I'm I don't know if that's sexy or not, a sexy topic, but whatever. I think it's interesting because mine is all about, like, I love information, I love data, I love taking complex things and explaining them in simple terms. It's all about that. Okay,
lawyer, right? Annette Stepanian, Esquire. This is why I love you, because I need you to, like, break things down for me.
I love it. And I think that's kind of going back to, like, what I said. I think, like, you need to know what you're good at, and knowing that you like to learn a lot of things, you have to then work with that. I read another book, the irony here, called The No, there's one, it talks about like, I think it's called the Renaissance Soul. I'll find it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But it talks about people like you and me who are like, we're so driven by like the learning. Like we get so much, like we enjoy it so much. I finally felt like this person understood me, right? And we're so carried away by it that like, but it gives these practical tips on how you can kind of compartmentalize that in a way that like you're just not spending all of your time taking courses on InDesign and AutoCAD and, you know, doing things that maybe aren't driving your business forward. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend that book to you, my dear. It just talks about like, there's still a time and a place for that, but how to do it in a context. For example, you create seasons for yourself, right? So, you know, it's basically quarters. You define a project by quarter. Mm-hmm. And let's say you really want to learn, I don't know, you want to learn something. So learn InDesign for whatever reason. You give yourself a time limit on that. You give yourself the 3 months that you need to, and you make that your focus so that you feel like you're making progress as the year goes on. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I feel like another benefit of doing something like this is, you know, creating seasons for yourself, which I'll admit that in 2017, especially once I got my job at Acuity, I really was just kind of treading water. I feel like doing something like this, like creating seasons for yourself, like you're saying, also helps you like future forecast your business or plan, like make actual plans for your business. Yeah. Instead of like within a year, 6 months, 90 days, whatever your time frame is, but it would actually, that would be maybe a fringe benefit of doing that, because then you're not like, okay, I'm going to create a magazine. Okay, I need to learn InDesign today. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I want to create a magazine in third quarter. So in second quarter, that's when I'm going to learn InDesign or whatever.
Yeah. And I think your point, though, is important. Is, am I the best person to do this? Is this a good use of my time? And making that from a business perspective, but on a personal level, being like, do I just want to learn this for the sake of learning? You know, I think there's value in that. So that's the kind of stuff that you do. Maybe that's your hobby, right? For a short amount of time. And so you have to distinguish that and know, okay, as the business person, this is not the most effective use of my time. So, okay, I get that. But I really, on a personal level, want to learn this for whatever reason. And I think it's important. I don't know. Do you have hobbies? I don't really have hobbies.
I do. Yeah. Well, and I put a lot more on my goals. Not a lot, but I put more focus on my hobby goals this year. But reading is definitely one of my hobbies. That's something that I want to pick back up. I kind of lost that when I had kids, but that's definitely one of my hobbies. I also like to scrapbook. I know, God, what am I? I'm 80 years old. It's fine.
Scrapbook is like a thing.
I like to scrapbook. I want to get back into it. I used to do a lot of it when I was quite a bit younger, which is interesting. Usually I feel like that's for older people, but that's one of my hobbies. And then I live on a ranch. And so I don't really have, like, if I want to go outside and ride a 4-wheeler, I can do that. And that's a hobby. You know what I mean? So I don't really have to, I feel lucky in that sense, but also, to your point, I don't really take advantage of those hobbies that often. And I feel like learning has become maybe like a hobby badge of honor for me that I kind of need to strip off, you know? Like, yes, I like learning, but also I need to be intentional, particularly if I'm not trying, I think that I take it too seriously is what I'm trying to say. Like I get major, like I'm going to learn this thing so I can do this thing so it can be a business.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like,
you know what I mean? It can't just be fun. Yes. Exactly. It can't just be like, I'm going to learn how to, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to learn surface pattern design just because it's fun.
But you're already thinking about how you're going to sell your patterns to, you know, this company, and you're going to go into wholesale. And it's just not, like, it's ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
I'm the same way too. It's like just doing things just for the sake of doing them, not that because they have to be, there is no ROI other than that it brings you joy.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. God, well,
which is funny because I'm not even asking myself. I think it's part of becoming more intentional. But when I decide to buy a course or not, like I say, I'm never thinking like, okay, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I want it to be a hobby and I just want to learn this skill? Or am I specifically doing this for this actual aspect of the businesses that I already have? It's mostly just like, oh, I love the idea of being a good copywriter, so I'm going to go ahead and buy this course. You know what I mean? It's like when people love the idea of being like a highbrow literature reader, they're like, I read Faulkner because it's Faulkner, but like on your Kindle, you're reading 50 Shades of Grey. Don't lie. You just don't want anyone to see it.
Boom. She just caught you on that. Oh, that's funny. That is hilarious. Girl, I feel like I have so much to change in my life before we chat next time.
I know. Can we chat next year so that I have... Just kidding.
So I have enough time to make all these changes. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the
let's
secret.
Not change in next week or in a year. Let's be a work in progress. I feel like shining a light is sometimes more helpful than being like, okay, I'm going to change these things, because then you're thinking about it. You know what I mean? Instead of like, again, change, like what you were saying earlier, changing like when we were talking about sales, is changing the frame of thought or the frame of reference around it, instead of like, I need to change this thing about myself. I feel like just shining a light on it and just saying like, this exists in my life helps us be more intentional about choices, even than just saying like, I need to change my personality and or my behavior.
Yeah.
That's not always necessary. Changing your behavior actually could just be a byproduct of being more open about real topics.
Yeah. And who says you have to change? I mean, you are who you are. You know, my dad reminds me of that, because I'm always like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to be more like this. And he's like, just be who you are, man. Chill out. Like, you know, just accept it. Like, with all the, you know, inequities or the imperfections and whatever, like, just accept who you are and as you are right now. Like, just chill out.
Okay. I love your dad.
Yeah. My dad's pretty awesome. I do want to bring him on the show.
Dad
is awesome. But
Dad, if you're listening to this, it's fine.
He does a lot. I know. I mean, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
I was going to say, we both have a podcast, so we're fine with that.
Anyway, well, maybe Dad will come on as a special guest. So, but yeah. So, my dear,
I feel good about this.
Are we done? Is this good?
I feel good about this. This is a good conversation.
This was a good conversation.
It was.
So we're going to come back with more episodes. Oh, I appreciate you too. You know, I had someone say that to me once. I was like, oh, you appreciate me. Like, I was like kind of taken aback. And now I say it to my husband all the time. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Kinsey.
I do. I like having someone to talk to about this where I can just be so honest.
Aww.
That's you.
You have me. Same. It lights up my day for sure. Because I think I get very isolated in my business. You know, I'm not really, it's just sitting behind a computer. And I love this, even though we're, again, behind a computer, but I get to see your face. And it's nice to connect on this level and realize like you're not alone in terms of like what you're thinking or feeling or experiencing. And so hopefully the folks who are listening to this can relate as well. And hopefully we brightened up their day a little bit.
I hope so too, because you are not alone. We are here and we feel the exact same way. In case you were wondering.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so maybe we should just wrap it up. I think this is a nice place to end it. And then we'll be back with another episode. I don't even know what we're going to call these, but...
We don't either. I just enjoyed this talk and we'll figure out the logistics later.
There you go. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy our chit chat? I know we are both big gigglers, so hopefully you enjoyed that as well and it put a smile on your face, as well as brought a little extra insight into your day. To grab all the resources we mentioned, I know we were all over the map with different resources you can check out. Head on over to the show notes available at AnnetteStepani.com/podcast/70. And let me know what you think about this episode. It's, like I said, a totally just off the cuff, having fun chit chat, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know over at Instagram. You can find me at Annette Stepanian. Okay, you guys, I'll be back next time, back with our regularly scheduled programming with a new episode. So stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, so Chit Chat with Annette and Kinsey.
Chit Chat with Annette and Kinsey. Look, I already got our theme music.
I know, do you want to do it? Do you want to do a theme song?
Theme song. If I record a theme song, my dad will be like, get out of town. Like, what did you do with the money for singing lessons? He loves that joke.
Chit Chat with Annette and Kinsey. We should do it. Come on. Chit Chat with Annette and Kinsey.
Yeah.